Welcome to How They Won. I'm your host, Bob Burns, and every week I get successful real estate professionals across North America to share their secrets of success with you. In this episode, I sat down with Dondi Fielder from Coldwell banker Gosslee in Shreveport, Louisiana. Dondi has been in the business for just over 2 years. Her first year, her production was way above average, and in her second year, she more than doubled her first year's production. Dondi is super relatable, and I think her perspective on succeeding in real estate is very interesting. During our conversation, Dondi and I talked about her unique ability to make her clients feel like they are the center of the universe, a unique twist on building some momentum in your real estate practice, how keeping a genuine service-first approach can lead to short and long-term success, along with many other things. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Remember to check out howtheywon.com for detailed guest biographies, show notes, and discussion. Thanks for listening. Enjoy this conversation with Dondi Fielder of Coldwell banker Gosslee in Shreveport, Louisiana. This week's episode is brought to you by Leaders Edge Coaching. Full disclosure, I am a trainer and a coach with Leaders Edge, but like you, I can choose to do business with anyone, but I choose to work with Leaders Edge. Leaders Edge has the right experience, knowledge, and tools to help you take your business to the next level. Whether that means closing more transactions, or improving your work-life balance, or building a team the right way, the coaches and staff at Leaders Edge can help you achieve your goals. For more information, email coaching@howtheywon.com. That's coaching@howtheywon.com. I have a confession to make. The guest on this episode is in one of my classes, and when I'm at the front of the room teaching, I always look for her. I do this because every single time, every time, 100 out of 100 times, there's a smile on her face. She's totally engaged in the conversation, 100% locked in. And I got to thinking, if she can make me feel like that in a room full of people, I wonder how she makes her clients feel. So my guest today is a woman named Dondi Fielder. She works with Coldwell banker Gosslee in Shreveport, Louisiana. She's been selling real estate for just a little over 2 years, but if you looked at her production, you would have no idea. Her first year in real estate was well beyond what anyone would expect from a first-year realtor, upper 2 percentile, first percentile in the business. But that wasn't enough because she went on to year 2 to more than double what she did in year 1, and she's on track this year to have an even bigger year. Dondi sells a ton of real estate, and I wanted to talk to her about that. But what I really wanted to talk to her about is her superpower of making people feel like they're the center of her universe. So Dondi, thanks for being on the show and welcome.
Wow. Thank you. What an introduction. I had no idea. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored, truly. I served the community in education in various aspects and just love people. And I loved serving in that way, and just came to a part where I had to, get into something different and wanted to switch fields, and always have been interested in real estate. So I thought, I'm just going to give that a go. So when I did, I love the reality that every day is a new day. It's not the same routine every day, but yet the process is the same. But I love the very best part of my job is meeting new people. I love people. I feel like everybody knows something I need to know, and I want to know what that is. So I enjoy getting to know them and spending time with them and helping them in that chapter of their lives.
I think you said a lot of things that I'd like to dig into in this conversation, but I want to start by talking about Tuscany.
Oh, Tuscany.
So you went to Tuscany a few years ago. You said you ate gelato every day. And if you see what Dondi looks like, she does not look like she eats gelato every day. So how was Tuscany?
Oh my goodness. Amazing. Someplace I've always wanted to go. I think Under the Tuscan Sun, watching that movie made me want to go there. But we just had a blast. We stayed at a bed and breakfast, and in the evenings would eat with people from all over the country. All over the world, and visit with them about their daily excursions. And then each day we would take our car, and with our Italian map, we did not have GPS. And we would, we had our little destination and go. I have to confess, we went 3 times around a roundabout one time before we realized which exit to take. But we would go and just, kind of peek into the lives of the Italians in these little Tuscan hill towns surrounded by walls, and kind of that part of the country is just kind of frozen in time. And I was fascinated with it. And yes, I did make it a goal to eat gelato every day. And I did. I walked it off. That's what I told myself.
So on my bucket list are the Cinque Terre towns. Oh. And I've always wanted, since I learned about it in like high school or even middle school, I read about walking from town to town in the Cinque Terre. So you're getting me excited.
Yes, you have to do it. It's just a wonderful thing. I think I could live there for a couple of years anyway.
That would be awesome. Okay, let's shift into business.
Okay,
I thought that was really interesting. And we're going to get to all of the things like customer service and serving the community. You said serve like a bunch of times, and I want to dig into that because having that genuine service mindset, I think, is really, really important. But I want to explore where that came from. What did you do before real estate? I find that a lot of times what we bring with us from prior lives can impact real estate, good, bad, or otherwise.
Right. So that's a good point. I served as an educator and an educational therapist and a tutor. From classroom teacher to working for a tutoring service is where I ended up the last 3 years. And so I learned a lot, and I brought a lot of skills that transferred over into real estate really easily. But it's interesting because some of my old students that I taught when they were like in 4th grade, I've sold them their home.
Oh, wow.
So that's been kind of a wonderful, unexpected, treat to be able to serve them in that way as well.
That's really interesting because a lot of times when people get into this, they seem to build a firewall between what they used to do in real estate, and they're reluctant to reach out to past life clients or connections. How did you have any kind of trepidation about reaching out to past students or people you tutored, or did it just come naturally?
You know what? That's a good point. I think Facebook was a great avenue to just put myself out there and let people know that I'm in this walk of life now, in this little journey. And so Facebook made that really easy for me. And,
so you talked on Facebook probably about what you're doing now.
Yes.
And I'm really excited to be in real estate, and here's a new career.
Yes.
And the leads just flowed in from there.
No. So I right after I got into real estate, I took advantage of every opportunity to any training that was offered. I just dove right in. I have to confess, at first, I was taken aback because I was working so much, but yet the paychecks weren't there.
Right.
So I thought, wait a minute, I've worked for a salary and I've worked for hourly wages, and I'm like, I don't know how this works. This is tough. This is hard. So I had to get out of that mindset of making money, and really focus on what I really was doing, is helping people and doing my job and doing it well and to the best of my ability. And then all of a sudden, things started happening. And when I really just focused in on that person and, that client and what their needs were and just doing it well, it just, multiplied. And then here we are.
That takes a lot of faith. And yes. it's a different path than going to a job where you get paid. You're selling your time to someone.
Right.
In real estate, we're not selling our time to anybody. We're selling outcomes to people.
Right.
No outcome, no paycheck.
Correct.
So the other significant people in your life, a lot of times I find that being new to real estate, people in our lives, even those closest to us, and even our biggest cheerleaders, our spouses, our siblings, our mothers, our fathers, people that really love us and support us, don't get it.
Right.
Did you experience that when you first got into real estate?
Well, I put the pressure on myself because I thought, oh my goodness, here I'm not working anymore, making a paycheck, and we're spending our own money investing in this. And my husband, thank God, was very supportive. He's a lender himself.
Oh, so he gets it.
So he totally gets it and was incredibly supportive. And I honestly don't think I would have been able to, it would have been very difficult to achieve and to do what I do and feel free and the ability to serve people and then just trust and, like you said, have faith that it's going to work out.
that whole taking the first step on the staircase when the rest of the staircase is in the dark thing is really apropos. So I want to get back to service, because when you were an educator, that was your job. You showed up and your job was to serve the people, to help them learn the outcomes, pass the test, caught up with the rest of the class, whatever it was that your objective was. And you said before that once you started to separate the financial piece from the job, once you separated the outcome from the input, things went smoothly for you. What gave you that idea, or did it just kind of come to you in a brainstorm?
Well, I really just started treating it like, what if I was in college, I wouldn't be paid for going to college.
Interesting.
And then I just need to serve, and even treated like an unpaid internship. I'm getting the on-the-job experience, and that freed me up. For some reason, that shift in thinking helped me to just be able to dive in and go all in and just give it, all I have. I thought, I'm going to go all in for a year and see what happens, and just show up every day, work hard, do my best, whatever that looks like. And I just kind of got lost in it and allowed myself to get lost in it and let that be what I did, because I was in school, so to speak, in my head.
That makes total sense. A friend of mine has this saying. He says, don't have commission breath. So commission breath is when clients can detect that the only reason you're talking to them is to figure out if there's a way to make a commission from them. And I think
that makes sense.
Showing up and doing the work, like you said, and just doing it for the sake of serving without kind of having that direct dotted line. It's like mouthwash for commission breath. I'm guessing it made it totally go away.
It did. I really do think so. Cause it was very interesting. At first, there was a couple that I got off of phone duty that wanted to look at rentals. Well, that's really not what we do. But I thought, what a great experience. I need to meet with people. I need to work with people, and I need to show houses, and I haven't shown a house yet, so let me go show this rental house. And I loved it. And it gave me the experience and kind of a way to try it out before a real buyer came along. And I helped them rent. I hooked them up with a lender so that we could have a plan to buy in the future. So just being open and willing to do whatever it takes for that client and meet them wherever they are.
That makes so much sense. And it relates back to how we started this conversation, that you just seem to be 100% locked in with the people that you're serving. And I think there's magic in that. It sounds so simple, but in today's world that's just full of distractions, and everyone's got a fear of missing out, and we have to scroll on Facebook and what's going on Instagram over here and what's going on in the news and we live in this kind of bubble of distractions. Figuring out how to make all of that melt away and get locked into a conversation, I think is such a lost yet critically important skill.
Wow. Well said.
So what did you do before real estate? So you were educating, you were helping students, but at some point you had this idea of, I'm going to do something different. What was that moment that you decided to get into this business?
Wow. Oh, that's a good moment. I was actually walking. I live on a farm and I was walking on the road. It's my favorite place to be. And other than Tuscany, I think I would like to walk in Tuscany, but I was walking and I thought, okay, my son is getting married. My daughter is graduating and moving away, and I need to do something different. It's time for me to jump into something different. And so honestly, I started praying and thought, what can I do? I don't really want to go get my master's. I really don't want to, I just need to be open to whatever that is. So I talked with my husband about it, and he said, Dondi, remember a long time, about 20 years ago, you were going to get into real estate.
Wow. And
you really were excited about that, but thought maybe that's not the right time. And I said, oh my goodness, you're right. That's it. So I, made a couple of phone calls. How do I do this? What do I do? Mm-hmm. I want to jump in and get involved. And how do I do this? I made a couple of calls with people I knew that were in real estate, and
they didn't talk you out of it?
No. They said, anyway, go for it and go visit the brokers, and you'll find you'll find where you belong.
It's so important. And it goes back to what I was saying about this world of distractions, to have those quiet moments of reflection, and it can lead us to making great decisions. When we give 100% of our attention to something, the outcome's going to be better. The trick is just, how do I do that? It's been about 2 years, 2.5 years now.
2 years, September 7th.
2 years, a little bit more. What has turned out the way you thought it would?
Oh my goodness. Well, serving people, and we actually do close, or actually selling a house. I figured that would happen. But everything else in between has been, really a roller coaster ride and lots of fun in a lot of ways. What I didn't anticipate was all the different personalities and all the different types of people. And I don't know why I didn't think that, but I guess I was in control in the classroom. I was the boss. And so I could kind of determine outcomes for people. What I wasn't anticipating is not being in control of other aspects of it. I can't control the market. I can't control the pace of other professionals involved. I can't control their time frame. So the things that I couldn't control were kind of unexpected.
That can be hard for some people to let go. It was certainly hard for me. It still is hard for me. I'm a control freak. Anyone who knows me knows that I try to distinguish, here's all the variables and here's how I can control for each one of them, A through Z. Sometimes I get into 2-letter variables because there's so many. And I work really hard to try to control everything. And a lot of times what that does is it causes me to miss other opportunities that are hidden in the weeds. Have you found that by letting go a little bit, that things have bubbled to the surface that you wouldn't have otherwise seen?
You're exact. Oh my goodness. That is so well said. That's exactly what I had to do, is just let go and take care of what I could take care of, do my part and do it well, and then stay in my lane and let go. And I found freedom in that of knowing, where my lane was, not being afraid to do more than expected, but just staying in my lane and doing my part.
What a beautiful thing. What other profession allows us to have that kind of freedom to just decide that's going to be what it's going to be. I'm going to do what I can do. And hey, look at me. I'm making a really great living for myself and my family.
I love that. I love that about this business. It's amazing. The flexibility, the ability to telecommute is amazing. It's just wonderful. But of course, my favorite part is being with people.
Right. Right. So one of the things you said as we prepared for our conversation today is, when things don't go as planned, this was your advice. When things don't go as planned, view them as badges you've earned and move on instead of viewing them as failures. And that goes to a lot of what I think maybe this is why we've connected a little bit together in our time in class is my philosophy is I either win or I learn. And when I learn, the price I pay is the tuition. And you talked about your first year as some sort of unpaid internship. I think it makes so much sense in a business where the best day of your career can be followed by the worst day of your career, and they're only 5 minutes apart. They're the same day.
Exactly. Oh, that's so true.
Has there been an example of when you were riding high, something knocked you down, or when you were low, something brought you up?
All the time. I mean, a deal may fall through that you've been working with for a long time, and both sides have worked really hard to get it to happen, and it just didn't happen. And I felt like a failure. I took that personal responsibility for that, and then realized really quickly by talking to someone else, it happens to everybody. And so when I thought, oh my goodness, I'm not by myself, I really am experiencing what other people have experienced in some form or fashion. I guess I just got a badge for that, and it just, that shift in thinking helped me to go, okay, it's move on, because I was like, okay, what else could I have done differently? And sometimes you can't do anything differently. You did everything you were supposed to do. You just need to put your badge on and go on.
Just move on to the next opportunity.
Right, next.
The beautiful part about real estate is everyone is a potential customer. 100 people, everybody you talk to needs a place to live.
True.
So there's so many opportunities out there. You said something about the support being there if you look for it. This can be a lonely business if we allow it to be, but it can also be just incredibly supportive. What did you come into this realizing that there is support there and there are people behind you if you look for it, or did that find you?
You know what? Coldwell Banker Gosslee said, I don't know how they do it, but they have created a family atmosphere, and I'm very blessed to be in that with that broker. I had to really go outside of my comfort zone because it was uncomfortable especially as a new agent, I didn't have anything going, but I would show up and be in the workroom and people would go, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm just working." They were like, "I know you don't have a deal. What are you doing?" But I would make it a point to go up there, be in the workroom and have some kind of task. Instead of doing it from home, I needed to go up there, start building relationships with people. And then I would maybe ask one question, really timely to somebody that walked through, and then save the next question for another person so I wouldn't wear the same person out.
Smart.
And then just continue to work there and continue to show up, build rapport, build relationships. And then they were able to give me the support. And then once I started producing, they thought, "Oh, okay, well, she really is doing something. She's not just sitting in the corner playing on the computer." So it helped. It really helped just showing up and being there and having a task that I could do, with in front of everybody. And I guess they could see the dedication there. So they didn't mind, giving me a minute of their time.
That makes so much sense. But the flip side, the other side of that coin, and this is something I experienced early in my career, is I did something similar. I showed up every day. I talked to everybody I could talk to. And I would say 80% of the advice I got was really, really good advice. But there was a 20%, like 1 out of 5 interactions, I figured out later that I was really asking the wrong people for advice.
Yes, you learned that.
So I learned who to just nod and smile and do my own thing.
Exactly.
Versus, really following the advice.
Exactly.
How did you distinguish that? Was it based on their production, or was it based on what they said making sense? Or was there some other way that you kind of created your internal filter?
Oh, that's a good point. I get being discerning is very important, and being able to filter through that and glean from people, because I didn't want to make them feel like they weren't important with what they were saying, because that's really how they felt. But I did kind of look at where they were in their business and their demeanor and how they handled life in general, I guess.
Right.
If you're a grumpy old man, then you're a grumpy old man, and I'm going to listen and, ask you about your day, but I'm not going to really listen to, if there's some nugget of wisdom there, I want to grab it, but the rest I'll kind of leave. And I don't know, I guess I just like to seek the wisdom, like you said, of a lot of people, and then pull from it what, based on training, based on whatever, at first it's like drinking water out of a fire hose. There's so much information, but, as you start getting experience in different deals, then, you start learning who to go to for that. And I would almost always preface it with, okay, I've got a situation with this, with this kind of home or whatever. They go, go to so-and-so because they're an expert with that.
That makes sense. So you sought advice that was really specific instead of general.
Right.
And that gave you better, more specific, actionable advice.
Right.
But there are those people in this business that can find a cloud in every silver lining. I call them cave dwellers,
yes.
Constantly against virtually everything.
That's funny. That is funny. And they do make good for good humorous
they do.
Conversations
and it's
sometimes.
Part of the business, but we have to learn that they're out there.
Yes,
and sometimes,
yes.
at least for me, I had to learn that the hard way. I want to get more into the mechanics of your business. And we talked early on about some of your business coming from social media. What are your primary sources of leads? And I'm wondering how someone so new to real estate has managed to close so many transactions so quickly. How have you found these people?
Well, I did phone duty at my office. I show up for phone duty, open houses. At first I didn't have any listings of my own. And so I would go and I would specifically look at what price range of home was selling and where there was a lot of action. And then I would find what homes, Coldwell Banker listings that fit that description. And then I would go ask those agents if I could hold their homes open.
Oh, that's so smart.
And so
many agents,
that buy it.
So many new agents do that in reverse. They wait until a listing agent says, I need someone to hold an open house, and they raise their hand. I did the same thing. I flipped it because I wanted to get more targeted. I wanted to select, not be selected. So good on you for doing that.
Well, my manager, I have to give her the credit. She trained us well.
Good for her.
Yes.
And how do you keep track of your leads? Do you have a CRM or Post-it notes, a recipe box? What do you use?
I do a CRM, but I'm also a list maker too. And so I have various things, and I'm still kind of trying out, kind of like I did in the classroom. You just try out different ways that are available to you until you find the system that really works best for you. So I've got lots of different aspects, and I'm still learning how to hone in on that and how to follow up best. And
so you're auditioning CRMs right now.
I am. That's a good way to say it.
And I think that makes sense because so often a software developer or a real estate company or whomever has designed what they think is the perfect system for them. And then when we put that out for a broader audience, it might be a great system, but it requires the users to totally change how they do their business. So I think it's smart to, as a user, to figure out what works best for you first, and then try to find a software package that emulates your own kind of natural process and way of thinking. So you're again, yet another smart move from Dondi on figuring all of this out.
Trying to figure it out.
Tell me more about your work with the Hub. So the Hub is a homeless shelter organization here in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Yes.
And Dondi does a ton of work with the Hub. She's very supportive of the Hub. Tell me more about the Hub.
Well, the Hub is a wonderful organization, and Cassie, who is the leader and, got everything started, has a wonderful group of volunteers. I do not work with them as much as I've volunteered on several occasions, but I just love to choose to support them. When I got into real estate, I thought, oh my goodness, I need more of a noble reason. I mean, of course, it's noble to help somebody find a home to live, but I just needed more than money. And so I thought, okay, if I'm helping people buy and sell homes, what about the homeless? Mm-hmm. And so that triggered me to, oh yeah, the Hub, duh. And so it made me feel good to set aside purposely before I even got my paycheck, determine where those monies would go. Whenever I did get a paycheck, a certain percentage would go towards the Hub, a certain percentage would go towards, and I had a couple of separate accounts where I would separate the monies to be able to set aside for taxes and whatnot, just all the little whatnots. And
you don't
then
wait till April 14th to figure out how you're going to pay your taxes?
Right. No, I don't.
That's good.
So anyway, so it just gave me a little thrill every check stub that I would get, knowing that at the end of the year, that was accumulating to be able to give that to the homeless, because I don't know, it just made me feel better about what I do.
It totally makes sense. And it's all part of being a business owner. That's a business owner mentality more than employee mentality. Is if we can build the community that we serve, it only strengthens the community and it only makes our business stronger. So it makes so much sense. Okay. One last question. And that is, if you had to give someone just beginning her real estate career one bit of advice, there's so much that you shared in this interview, but if you had to boil it all down to like one thing for somebody who's the ink is still wet on their license, what would that be?
Dive in.
Dive in.
Dive in. Take advantage of every training opportunity. Just work. Go learn the tools that are available. Be familiar with MLS, the inventory. That is our job, to know that. And so just, dive in and dive in with people, the people that you're with, dive in with the training, dive into your community, just dive in.
I think that's fantastic advice. Just dive in and go all in on what you're doing. There's only one way to take the island, and that's you got to burn all the boats.
Right.
So
there you go.
So if you burn all the boats, you'll take the island guaranteed. Dondi Fielder, thank you so much for sharing your secrets of success with us on this podcast.
Thank you.
You can find more information about Dondi on howtheywon.com on the episodes page. Also remember to like, subscribe, and share this podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody, and have a great day.